ready to start? Okay. Hello, everyone. I have your notes.
Yeah, and my
Okay. No problem. So, hello, everyone. Welcome to the first session. I'm Sanya Petkowska. I will be moderating the session for you. I hope, like everyone, is comfortable with just this announcement that 5 minutes are left from the presentation. We have 15 minutes each for the presentation. First speaker with us is Anna, and she will be giving presentation on the topic Career Learning and Education for Response, Able Sustainable Development, Relational Perspectives and Ideas. Anna, floor is yours. Tell us more.
So, hello everyone. My name is Anna, and my presentation will be done not by myself only, but also with Sanna Toivianen, because we shared the work and we worked together on the paper, and we are going to actually to share with you that kind of ideas that we have, and also our presentation is some sort of invitation to you to think of out of the box, as it was mentioned before in the previous session, and also to explore some critical perspectives. And we are particularly interested in the critical perspective that is called post-humanism, and also new materialism, and this is why and where we situate ourselves in this presentation. So, we start with some short notification and short reminder that career learning and sustainable development are both the themes that are mostly developed right now. And
I cannot see the presentation. Can we show the presentation?
You can, but yours was open, and this is mine.
what is this? Sorry.
Can you help us, Mariana? Because on the screen is her presentation, but mine is on the projector.
I need to move the slide.
No, because you didn't put it in. Let me go back.
She didn't share the screen.
Yes, yes.
Help us, please.
It's an easy fix.
I don't know how mine.
This
No,
one?
no, no, no.
No?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Now it is.
Okay. So I hope you can see it now. And we were here. So we see the growing attention that is given to the green guidance, sustainability, etc. And we also see some sort of necessity to make life and career decisions within the limits of planetary boundaries. And also we see that kind of interest in sustainable development, not only in the theories, but also in the political documents. So, for example, CDFOP is writing a lot about career learning and sustainable development. And this is why we actually, at the end of all of these discussions, we need to have career education and learning that are formed in a different way than this individualistic and instrumental way that we see, at least in the political documents. So when we have done some literature review, what kind of assumptions are under that kind of understanding of career learning and also sustainable development, we both see that mostly we see there this anthropocentric approach that is basically really not that much focused on the nature, and it treats nature and environment just as a resource or as some sort of backdrop and basic things that people may use. And also, we also notice that kind of little recognition of the non-human perspective in all of those literature. And also, we realize that most of that kind of analysis are thinking that education is mostly for human development and human progress and cultural progress. So this is basically something that we call anthropocentric thinking. And we actually have some very important reasons why we should also question this anthropocentric approach. And the first one is probably that if we want to have that kind of lasting and stable social change within societies, we not only have to focus on practices and tools like green tools, green economy, green analysis. What we need is probably more fundamental is the change in the fundamental ways of thinking about the role of humans in the world. So this is why, the first reason why we think that this anthropocentric approach should be at least questioned. And this is also because most of that kind of analysis that are only based on green guidance, green tools, maybe have this kind of technocratic belief that throughout technology and throughout, investing in some green things and stuff, some green things, we will be able to actually make a social change. And we believe that it's not enough. So we think that at the end we should look for theories and pedagogies that stress humans becoming with the world and responsible development, so that we could actually make that change that is needed for us. So we both are focused on relational ontologies, and that's something that is coming from Biesta's think, which is called world-centered pedagogies and education. So this is basically where we are at the moment, trying to analyze and apply that kind of relational ontologies into our field and into career guidance and career education and learning.
Yeah, so this is just a short crash course to what we mean by relational ontology. So this is based on our work, our previous article with Anna, and our exchange on what we think about what could be thought as new ground for career guidance practices, career learning practices, based on something other than humans thought as atomistic beings in the world. So relational ontologies are sort of promoting this idea that it's we are inherent part of the world, we are part of the multi-species world and materialities, and our agency is constituted in these relational encounters with the material and multi-species world. So the relational ontologies start with the idea that there are no a priori bodies or subjects or beings, that these are constituted in relations with both humans. So I have developed something which is called co-agency. That agency is constructed in encounters. We expand or narrow our agency totally dependent on other human beings, but then you can also think about agency as expanded or diminished among non-human agents and these encounters. And then we introduce this concept comes from Donna Haraway, that when we think about agency or becoming truly as a relational, through this relational ontology, so we come to think that when we care for ourselves, we at the same time care for the other. So when we care for the other, we at the same time care for ourselves. So she introduces this concept of responsibility. So when we respond to the needs of the others, be it human others or non-human beings or more than human species, so we also make both of these ends, both of these relational ends capable. So we render each other capable. So and this is not only ethical, so this is purely like ontological idea that we need to recognize and appreciate the interdependency and vulnerability of us together in a multi-species world of webs of relations and local and global scales. But how to put this into practice, how to actually build pedagogies that enable this appreciation of our relational ontology as ourselves. So that's where we turn to Biesta's world-centered education. So Biesta starts with the acknowledgement that when we educate, so we do not educate only humans for their desires, that we do need to educate humans to this, to exist with and in the world and within its boundaries. So I hope you see the connections here, that when we contribute to the development of the individual, so we need to contribute to the development of the individual in its relations. So the world puts some limits to what we can help the students to, and our pupils to desire in the world. So the question is not what do I want from the world? What are the individualistic aspirations, career plans, their sort of projects that they want to be in the world? It's not only enough to think about this end, but what the world actually calls, what is the world asking from me? And these are very sort of abstract concepts, but what the world is asking from me for Biesta is not only what society needs from me, not going to that technocratic idea that what labor market, what the green transition needs from me as a laborer, but what the world in its non-formal and formal labor needs from me. So So the task of the teacher for Biesta is to point students to this, what the world needs, and he says that it's actually like we need to go to new registers of knowledge transmission, not only through labor market information, but actually build these relationships to the world, going to the communities, going to these different environments where pupils can actually find what the world needs for them. And that actually also, I think it comes very nicely together with the purpose of career guidance, that we need to make the learning to make sense in the young people's everyday lives and everyday context beyond the labor market.
Okay, so we basically think that there are a couple of dimensions of the way we can apply that kind of thinking. And first of all, we stress that we should problematize the anthropocentric world of view. We should also introduce care and empathy to foster responsibility. And also we should introduce and stress the relational entanglement that people have in their lives. And also we should also develop the idea what is subjectification and pointing in career guidance and learning. So first of all, speaking of the problematizing the anthropocentric worldview, we think that what is the most important job is actually to stress that career is not only human-only process. In our careers, there are plenty of things like technology, animals, environment, trees, and other stuff involved. So a career is not only human, and there are plenty of non-human beings involved there, and the same is for the labor market. The labor market is also more than human, as we use the nature, we use resources, we use all of this technology, AI, etc. So labor market is not only human. And career choice is then not only the choice for the way that someone is living, but is also the form of responsibility. When someone is taking career choice, actually is doing something in reality and is taking some perspective. So when someone is making a career choice, it's crucial to understand that this choice has also its impacts on the entire world. So from all of this, what you can see, I think that what is the most important is also the fact that what we are sorry, but we've just been informed that we have less time than we thought, so this is why we are so stressed. So
you can have a minute, like it's okay. Don't
okay,
feel the pressure of the time.
Yeah, so probably the most important thing is to stress that for career learning and education, it's extremely important to develop the pedagogies where we understand that each of our action has its own consequences in the world, and we are not alone in the world. There are also non-human beings that are involved in our lives, so then every act of caring, every act of being responsible to the world and every act of responding to the world's needs is not only a moral thing, is that kind of ontological thing that is doing something in the world. So this is why we as a teachers and educators, we should probably teach and learn with the students how to show the world to the students, how to be able to the words, and how to actually notice the needs that words is communicating to us. So I know that we are out of the word, but probably, Sana, you also have something to add here.
No, I think we
Here.
have used our time.
You
So
can use
if
your
there's
time
some
later.
comments or
Also, there will be
questions, so
Yeah.
Discussion.
yeah.
Can I see?
Yeah. Yes, yes, I know. Yeah.
Okay. I can sit here maybe for most of the time because
Okay.
not to move all the time. Okay, thank you. To be honest, this is mind-blowing presentation. I'm really excited about the ideas presented, and it reminds me of my debate about Althusser when I said, but you know, this theoretical anti-humanism, it's like such a dangerous thing, and my friend told me, but you know, maybe it's a way to be human in another way. So really, thank you for thought-provoking and very interesting presentation. The second presentation in our first session, Career, Precarity, and Radical Imaginaries, Critical and Relational Approaches, is Roland, and he, yes, sorry, Roland, and he will be giving us talk about career making and structural insecurity, a critical inquiry and into employment policy and career guidance in Albania. Okay.
Yes.
Do you need assistance as well? I'm very sorry I don't.
Yes,
I can't help you.
It's our problem because we are
Sorry.
dependent for the technology. This is the problem that we
Yes,
have.
we need to
It's not problem of technology. It's our
to
problem.
learn new ways to relate to non-humans.
Okay. Yes.
A more
Other
better
topics for the
communicated one.
conference, maybe.
I'm gonna get another
Mouse.
Okay.
mouse.
Uh,
Basically, yeah.
Yes, that was not sensitive enough
Right? Sorry.
anymore.
Are you back? No. No. It
So
is?
we see how machines are important.
it's okay.
Uh,
No.
no, we need to
Okay.
wait for Mariana and maybe share some other ideas for later discussion. I hope everyone agrees that.
The technological
Okay.
gods.
Okay.
In the same time, I can do my presentation. I'm Roland Lamy from Albania. I have a focus the role that have a preference in the choice of the professions, and at the same time to identification some other factor that influence in this choice. I think the picture that with presentation here, I hope let's see only in Albania, and not the same in the country that we have, but I'm afraid it's the same situation. I don't know, but I will see the feedback that I have about my presentation, because I try to presentation some main line that I see like a tendency, let's say, or like a problem. I don't know how to evaluation them, because everyone have a different view about this, and see what's happened next. Yes.
No.
In my presentation, I'm okay. Huh? In my presentation, yes. In
Sorry.
my yes. In my study, I will try to combine different methods,
Back.
qualitative and quantitative methods. Let's say I have realized a survey with 8,000 students for public and non-public university students. I am organized 4 focus group with the students, and then 12 interview with the education specialist, let's say. 3 methods that I have used is finally help me to see that three tendencies. First process of socialization, the interrupt of the choice of preference, let's say. The second, the market conditions that mentioned our colleague here. And the last, value of professions. We've combined three theories to explain the situation in Albania, constructivism, how preferences are constructed, rational choice, how decisions are made, and human capital, how same choice yield great value. About the methodology, I mentioned some information about you, and you are clear about what methods that I am used to presentation, some finding now. I formulation 3 research question. The first is that address the role of structure in the education choices. The second, construction of career trajectories. I think it's important to see that, the tendency in Albania. And then transformation of high education under market influence. About the hypothesis, I'm not try to read that, but you can see I formulation 3 hypotheses connect with the research question. And the findings are this. If you reference the data, we see that 63% of students choose their field of study based on employment perspective. Only 27% based on personal preference. Focus of choice are in the business, IT, engineering, but if you see the interest of youth to attend the program of social science and humanity, we see that they have a decline after each of years. Interesting situation, I think, is that the preference of gender role, let's say, if you compare the preference based on gender perspective, we see that the current gap between the gender is that the 5 to 12% in some fields is less than 8%. But compared with the 10 years before, we see that the gender gap would be 15 to 13.8%. In some field, go more 50%. What you see is that the tendency of the market influence more than the gender perspective or role, let's say, because the difference between the gender is go to minimize each of yours. Differentiation in academic specialization. 64% of students in applied fields continue along the same trajectory. Around 56% of students in social science and humanity would not choose the same field again. The master degree is used as a corrective mechanism rather than to specialization in certain field. But what I can say, you can see the difference between the attitude of the student that attend the program of social science and humanity and the natural science and applied science is a different attitude from bachelor to master. Of course, and this tendency, I think, have a big impact in the profilization, deeply knowledge, etc. Transformation of curricula, if you reference the many curricula in the different universities, we see that the only 50% of programs in social science and humanity remain classical. Over 80% have become multidisciplinary of the master level. But if you compare with the other program in the other discipline, you will see that the only 80% of programs are modified, or let's say are multidisciplinary. Over 80% remain the monodisciplinary in level master. In this situation, you see different approach about the conceptation of curricula in the different fields. Early formation of preference towards certain field of study is interesting, I think, this data, because 50% of students declared attended at least one course during lower secondary education. 50% attended two or more courses. Over 80% attended courses in mathematics, physics, biology, IT, and foreign language in context of Albania, because every country have different attitude about the foreign language, because we have a big increased number of migration, but I will mention the in continuous. The reason that mention the students about what you which have the reason that you attend this course suggest for your parents are two: filling knowledge gaps and expanding knowledge in specific fields. But if you compare with the other discipline, we see that only 30% declared attending course in social science, in humanity, music, art, logic, public speaking during lower secondary education, with slightly high participant during higher school. What we can say is that oriented begin early and favorite applied fields. Process socialization, let's say, serve it to create the preference for some fields. Role of immigration is interesting in context of Albania, because I don't know if you know that Albania is the top list of the country that have increased number of immigration, and the tendency of the market in the level area and Europe have impact in context of Albania. So this is the reason that have increased interest to attend the program, let's say engineering, IT, medicine, and nurses management. Germany is the top list that see for the perspective of the market for the student in Albania. And the interesting situation that we can say is that we have expand the logic of choice from national to the international labor market. Other data that have interest, I think, maybe to discuss with each other, is that the program dynamic and academic staff reorientation. The decline in students number, close of some program, and frequent curricular change, years after years, create uncertainty for academic staff, of course, with my perspective, with my position after 5 or 10 years, which department have need for my knowledge. As a result, staff oriented their qualification in flexible and program way, adapting to market demands and the needs to remain viable within the system. It's not the same situation for some other discipline that I mentioned before, because have continuous, have number of students, budget, and this create the paradox, let's say, in the market. The yes. This is the last. The other aspects are concluded, but we can discuss.
4 minutes more.
We have 4 minutes.
Yes, this was 5 minutes.
Yes, it's not.
Don't worry.
Yes.
Take your
Conclusion. Yes. Structure differentiation of the university system and societal needs. The system increasingly divide between winning program, let's say market-oriented, and at-risk program, low demands, create an internal inequality or different balance, let's say, in society, in perspective, general perspective. Second, structural differentiation and societal needs. Market orientation becomes the dominant criteria for the survival and development of program, producing strong specialization in some fields and tendency toward generations or standardization in other. But in this process, practical applied knowledge increasingly take precedent over in deeply theory knowledge. let's say, if you adaptation, multidisciplinarity, your curricula, which your deeply knowledge that you have in some field. Let's say if you see the tendency of the program, all tendent to involve different disciplinary, economic, IT, communication, psychology, etc. This is the tendency that have in my country. I hope maybe in your country is different. Program dynamic and academic staff reorientation I mentioned before. I think it's a big problem because the stress and stress of the staff to orientation and to create the research acts for the perspective. Curricular dynamization is the other conclusion that we say. Only a small share of program in social science and humanity remain classic, while the majority have shifted toward multidisciplinary format at the master level. At the same time, a considerable number of programs retain a monodisciplinary structure. This rising important question about the balance between market orientation and preservative of disciplinary depth and coherence in the academic trainer. Early formation of academic preference, I mentioned before, have tendency for parents to orientation the children for some field because they think is that important for career of them, but in the same time building the preference for them time after time. And migration, I mentioned before, is a problem for problem. Is the interesting situation for us because have tendency to orientation the preference of the students because see beyond Albania to get the job. This is my picture. I try to presentation some main line, and maybe we can discuss or we can change or we can say more detail about what I can prepare for this presentation. Thank you for attention and sorry for your respect.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Roland. That was very wonderful and important information about knowledge production on peripheral countries. That's my passion, my primary interest. So it was very interesting to hear. Okay, we now can welcome again Sana as a speaker for the next presentation. Please, floor is yours.
Yeah, sorry, it's me again. But
I hope we don't need assistance
in the
again.
meantime, I'm just finding this one. Yeah. Oh, struggling to find sort of like a continuation, a red thread throughout these presentations. Now we're hopping a bit to slightly different. But as a comment to the last presentation, I think it underlines the importance of starting early on with career learning activities to sort of challenge those quite instrumentalistic and labor market sort of technocratic choices that young people make. So that just emphasizes the importance of starting early on. But now I'm introducing. This is a work in progress. I'm representing the whole Radical Career Imaginaries subgroup. So this was a joint abstract sent by us as a collective, and it also includes all the perspectives of the group. So I consider that this has been like a collective effort. So we are, as being a radical imaginary group, so we are thinking big, thinking out of the box. Nurten's mystical introduction was a good teaser about the box thinking, so I'm going to present that now with a slightly a bit more conceptual base. So we draw, I think we are liking to think that we are drawing from utopian thinking in this work with the rethinking, problematizing and changing the box. So there's a lot of different scholars on utopian thinking, but I've just picked up Ruth Levitas's definition that the core of utopia is the desire of being otherwise, individually and collectively, subjectively and objectively. Its expressions explore and bring to debate the potential contents and context of human flourishing. It is thus better understood as a method than a goal. So Levitas is challenging maybe this problematic idea of and dangerous idea of utopias. Socialism is associated with utopia. It's more like a programmatic, giving no alternatives to a utopian future where people should progress towards. Ruth Levitas is opening that as a more indeterminate, open-ended, tentative method of exploration, different ways of being otherwise. And she presents this three sort of stages on how utopian thinking as a method can work. Utopian thinking can be applied to explore current policies, current societal ways of organizing, global politics, the idea of capitalism can be explored as a form of utopia, and also how different historical developments, political developments have been based on utopia, ideas of how can humans flourish, how can societies become arranged in ideal form. So they're all utopias. Some of them have then made it their way into materializing into societal structures and political economies. So the first stage in Levitas thinking is to actually explore the present and the past, and what are these historical trends, what we have had in institutions or in social practices, and then to explore those ontologies in these institutions and social practices. What kind of subjects, what kind of beings are invited? We have talked a lot about now the neoliberal individual, so a certain idea of being, as Mariana very finely summarized, so I don't need to do that again. So that's one way, and then there's others. We've now presented, for example, the more than human ontology, and that presents another way of understanding subjects and beings. And then the last and very sort of practice-based stage of utopian thinking as a method is to then think about the radical alternatives. When you have started to problematize the current and the present and the past, and those core assumptions underlining these ideas, these utopias, so you can start thinking alternatives. And we think that utopian thinking is a critique, first and foremost, of the present. And so our aim in the working group is to apply and develop something which is called utopian pedagogy. And it's not about maybe building big institutional or cross-institutional meso-level infrastructures, which Levitas actually proposes that we should think about broad ideas, but I think the working group 1 and other sort of working on those policy levels, working group 2 are more interested in those levels, but we are in career guidance practice group. So we are thinking about maybe transforming the practice, drawing from alternative ways of thinking about what could be the focus for career guidance. What is the being which is in center of these practices? So we aim to, in this utopian pedagogical way, assist our participants in the group to thinking towards alternative utopian horizons. And this involves a sense of estrangement, so making the familiar unfamiliar. And we've had some sessions already trying to sort of see how our daily going to the workplace and sitting in front of our computer and doing our daily things can be seen as like an anthropologist looking at a weird species of beings doing some weird rituals. So we are trying to distance ourselves from the very normal, mundane, familiar, what we are all sort of weaved into, to then rethink what alternatives could there be. So it is inherently critical. And then to see these, maybe in our field when we apply this into career guidance, so we see these discourses, concepts, models, rationalities against, we need to have some sort of reference point to problematize or estrange ourselves from these rationalities, and that's where we introduce some, and this is where we get a little bit creative way, that how do we do this? So we introduce some new, maybe ontologies and epistemologies, theories which come from the, and now I'm using the majority world to just be clear that we are in the Western Eurocentric, we are the minority world, and then there's the majority world. And all these silence perspectives may be in our field. And that enables us maybe to see then some concepts, core concepts, which we operate with in a new light. So this is how we organize our work. So we have established something which is called critical unlearning circles, organized in our radical career imaginaries laboratories. So first we are looking into the box. So introducing maybe a specific area problematization in current career conceptualizations and guidance practices. And this is what we call the box. So we're trying to make visible these dominating discourses about agency, about career, about labor, about work, rationalities, assumptions in career theory, in models, institutional systems where career thinking and guidance practices exists. Then we go to the thinking outside the box phase, where we explore critical literature, and here I've got a list in the next page: post-humanist, relational approaches, social justice theories, post-colonial perspectives, indigenous other global perspectives. And we use these lenses to interrupt these theories and practices, to see some differences in new light. Aim is to see the current discourses and the gaps and the silences in these what becomes visible when we read about from an Afrocentric approach. We introduce ourselves into some Afrocentric approaches, and then we think about what is absent in the current models. And then we go into the architecture phase, engaging ourselves with very sort of creative work, co-crafting some narratives, some imaginaries of what contexts, what contents, what agents, what relations, what discourses, what can be seen in light of these new kind of radical alternatives which we have introduced. And very trying to really concretely go into the practice. How would this look like? And also looking for already existing things. So we know that utopias are existing and they are happening already. So maybe when we sensibilize ourselves into these new forms of thinking about career, so then you start seeing how people actually enact these careers in their daily lives. So what we have done so far, so we situate our thinking in sort of broad critical tradition, diverse sociological and philosophical approaches, Frankfurt School of Critical Thought, post-Marxism, post-structuralism, post-humanism. So we have so far investigated eco-criticism. We are going to engage ourselves with histofuturism and Afrocentrism. There's a presentation from Jarkko Immonen on cruel optimism, problematizing the ideas of desiring something which is causing your misery, and that how can we connect that to, our career aspirations, the failure of the how whatever you do, so you end up just suffering psychologically. So this enables us to sort of disrupt these ideas of linear progress and the promises of the good life when you do specific, when you do all by the book. And new materialist and post-humanist perspective presented by Anna and me, because we are very interested in these. And belonging, politics of belonging. So different sort of literature which comes slightly from another angle. And what we are doing, so we are opening these webinars, so there will be calls, and we have now decided that we're going to open all these sessions of rethinking or changing the box to people, so you're welcome to join. And so this is something that we are trying to make into reality, so it would be a potential pedagogical model, and I think it would be more to maybe train career practitioners, career guidance practitioners, but how this relates to practice, so that is something that we maybe need to think how we involve the end users in this process. Not only, we have practitioners who participate in the workshops, but maybe then, I don't know, going further, maybe there will be a Erasmus Plus project on this. Don't know yet. And then maybe contribution to some of the COGA publications with this. At the end of 2026, 2027, so we're working collectively with these perspectives and trying to use Freda Tsapsalis is introducing something like design thinking, so that we could sort of put these ideas into architecture phase of the utopian thinking. So we want to land on something concrete in the end, but so this is what's happening. So this is more like to inform what's going on in the Radical Career Imaginaries group. Yes. Thank you. And I do have some extra minutes, so I did well.
Yes, you
I
have 2
love
more
this, like,
minutes.
the agency of time here making us like heart rate goes up, and
Maybe we can use it for a breathing exercise, like we
Yeah.
have extra 2 minutes. I'm joking. We can continue because we lost some minutes on the way as well. Thank you, Sana. Now I have to do something weird, which is to introduce myself, and I also maybe need help. This is the first time in history I'm doing this, introducing myself. Where is my PowerPoint? Mariana, please. We will.
You are important this session.
It's mine, I know mine's there.
Mine is.
He's very nervous. Yes. It's a nervous mouse. So
It is like slow mouse, not sensitive.
where's yours? It's this one.
No,
No?
No.
No. It was open.
I think you downloaded it.
Yes, I did.
So please, where it is?
Right there. Yeah. It's probably here. Don't worry.
No, I don't. I'm not worried. By the way, thank you, Sana, because I really like your ideas, to be honest. And yes, there is a lot of things that I could connect to. I'm not dependent of this PowerPoint. I don't care about it. I can give presentation even without it. And what is even more, I need to count my minutes. That's a hard, actually, task. I could make it 10, but my exact 15 minutes, it's going to be tricky to count. Okay. First of all, I would like to tackle the topic a bit down and simplify it, because when I was thinking about how I could contribute concretely, I got stuck by the complexity, by a lot of things and directions towards which my thoughts are going, and what actually I would like to do. To be honest, I would start by introducing myself, of course. I'm Sanja Petkovska, I'm coming from Serbia. I'm mostly dealing with political sociology, to be honest, and for a long time I tried to develop approaches to research based on critical social theory. As a young, I got influenced by critical social theory, and I read a lot of it. I'm very passionate about doing this my entire life. When I decided to join this action, I thought that it will be good to use opportunity to actually finally get into critical political economy. It's very hard, especially if you are not an economist and you are not, let's say, knowledgeable in Marxism, which is not easy to get to, especially if you are coming from former socialist countries, Serbia, as I do. It was abundant, literally, to, of course, teach and choose topic for the dissertation that use Marxism. So I decided to do exactly this, and I proposed the doctoral dissertation that is using neo-Marxist theory known as world system theory. And I did analysis of research policies in Serbia, small peripheral countries, based on this approach. Yes, and I analyzed how international documents produced in half of the 20th century, second half, got influenced policies in Serbia, and analyzed also laws in Serbia to see similar trends and patterns. However, how it relates to my today presentation, and finally, do we have it?
Yes, it is here, but it's here, but then I can't show it.
It was shown
Yes, it was
in the
just
beginning,
before.
and now we
Just
can't.
before, and for some reason,
Technology is
Yeah.
making me sabotage for my presentation. However, I decided to deal with the notion of crisis and what actually it means,
you can
because
if you want, you can see it, and at
I
least
can see it,
you can
but
see
you
it,
cannot share it.
but I can't share it.
It doesn't matter.
Basically, that's
I
it.
mean, it doesn't matter. Generally, I mean, if anyone wants, can get it later on email. So yes. This was a short introduction. It took only 2 minutes for me, so I have plenty of time to reflect on the notion of crisis, which is actually my idea.
Because it's.
Don't worry. Don't
I'm so
forget.
sorry.
No. Even better. I mean, because
It is showing. It is showing now.
miracle.
Miracle.
Miracle, so you can follow me, but
Yes,
not.
but the thing it has. Yeah, but we can't. Let's try to change it then.
Let's continue. I mean, with the
It's
speak
working.
because
It's working. Ignore what you see
okay.
and trust.
Okay, trust my how I memorized. Okay, however, I decided, of course, to first of all clarify to myself what crisis actually means. In terms of, yes, crisis in career studies and critical social theory, they come together. What we should know new about it, and how actually I could move forward from research I did, and what new I can do for this action. And of course, then later on, I found the perfect moment to get back into learning about critical political economy and be more knowledgeable about this very hard and tough, discipline. Not many are very good in. There are a few authors, and to comprehend them is also very important. So I decided to use theory to initiate reading of those. Then I will very briefly actually demonstrate what crisis theory in Marxism means from my very, very initial perspective, which I plan to develop further, especially as a part of this research digest we prepare in the working group 1. And in the end, of course, I would try to at least open a question of how what has been produced in critical social theory regarding the crisis and crisis theory is informing career studies, or could inform them both in terms of more advanced research that could actually communicate better with policies, practices. But in my perspective, I mean, even reflection is practical enough. So it's a movement in the consciousness, so we do practice in any case. Well, I went back into some definitions that are very general, what actually crisis means, because I just understood that very easily we apply the term without actually knowing the complexity and the layers of meaning that are coming together with using this term. That is one level. Another level is in social sciences, people do the same, more or less. When you do critical reading of people who are using the term, otherwise than in Marxism, which is some separate issue, they really, take for granted crisis is whatever is problematic, challenging, and confusing, and blah, blah, that is crisis. I don't think that's the perspective that social sciences should take. You need to be precise what actually you mean when you use the term crisis. That's not easy at all. That's almost impossible. Having in mind what I said about the how the term is present in the practice. However, there are some common sense meaning, turning point, the decisive moment in a plot, like in a drama or in literature, unstable of critical time of state of affairs. That is far more important, because I think that crisis is implying it is more than something individual. However, there is a common sense, it is something very subjective as well. When you say crisis, first maybe image that comes to your mind is a psychological stress, actually connected with experience of crisis, which is normally, in my understanding, much more social. I will skip this because it's important, but not for now, and just not to waste time of this stuff now. Okay, this is something I already briefly reflect on in what I said. However, as I said, I believe it's far more important, and I wouldn't like to judge what is more important, structures or people, because they should be connected, and they are actually both equally important. That's epistemological stance I'm undertaking, but in Marxism, of course, it is related to deeper structural changes related to capitalism as a way of social reproduction that is dominant currently in the world. And according to Marxism and critical political economy, not only this tendency of the profit to fail profit rate is critical for a crisis, but most of Marxists, there is a lot of them. I didn't put them in the presentation because, if you put, my opinion is, at least, if I put a lot of theoretical concepts and names, it's just gonna make it confusing and not very clear. I would like maybe to just be very clear and say some points that will make difference to what we spoke about, and open maybe floor for the discussion. What is very crucial are these circles in tendencies in social reproduction that after a while get changed. And it changes everything. It's not even personal, it cannot be avoided. It changes the way the society comes together, and not only national society or in a country. We know now that all countries are interconnected. So crisis is something global as well, immediately as it happens, and it reflects on economies, lives, governance systems in other parts of the world. When we think about it, crisis appears to be something very dramatic, because we actually cannot predict anymore. According to many of those Marxist theories, some of them actually are claiming that those cycles of reproduction, of conjuncture change, of switch in the entire composer and structure of capital production in the moment. Some say that there is a regularity of how those circles reproduce and change. Some actually believe there is no. But now, in most of theory I read, and as I said, my plan is to do readings of current theories, which means there is a lot of reading still to be done. To be honest, I read only half of Capital, and I'm not going to continue reading it because people made summary, and I think it's very enough. I understood that people have no idea what they speak about, and then there are other, only speaking about literature, Marx wrote about this topic. But however, I think it's almost impossible to ignore importance of a crisis theory developed by Marx and inspired by Marx from understanding crisis today in any sense. So it's very hard. If you want to work in this project, you really need to understand how crisis is actually, ontologically overpresent in social analysis, and why this dialectical method introduced by Marx is very important, and new materialism, for understanding how systems are influencing each other and how structure and agency is inseparable, interconnected in everything we actually study or approach. So I think my time is about to be up. This is a new book I found. I didn't read it still, but it looks for me very exciting. And for my future work, I would like to summarized literature I didn't read that looks, how to say, as opening new perspective into how I can understand and crisis and apply it or make operationalization of crisis to understand these changes in career development, or at least to help others to develop tools and instruments to do better informed research that actually is capable to change how to say, the ways scientists, social scientists are approaching the subject, but also to inspire change into, you know, we spoke about, in my comments, about the topic of how we produce change. I think that even by speaking, you can inspire very material change. So those interconnection between ideas in reality are very, you know, unexpectedly connected. And we need to speak, to continue doing good analysis, read good books, and share the word. That's, for the beginning, good practice. However, of course, it is very important to reach out to everyone involved into educational policies, especially in small countries, because we discussed these differences among countries. I'm not gonna abuse my position because I need to stop myself as well. It's not easy, but I think my end is in 1 minute, so it's easy. We will stop, and then what was the last thing I said? Can you repeat? No. Well, what is important to highlight? Yes, we produce papers, so I have a lot of space to express my ideas, make them better organized and communicative to all of you. I will end and stop here with my presentation and continue with chairing the session. Questions? Sorry? I like to be right on time. I'm not, you know, like relative about it. Okay, we have one more speaker today with us, and whatever you had to ask whoever presented during this session, please make notes, and in the end we will have some time for this. So the last speaker, but not the least, today is Fiona, and she will be speaking about reimagining agency for critical career studies and exploration of reflexivity and critical consciousness. Exciting. Floor is yours.
So let's hope my presentation comes up. I kept seeing it pop up earlier, so I knew it was there. Let's just see.
It should be here. Do you see? And then, yes, this little thing.
Okay. This one here.
Here. That one.
No.
Next one.
That you have to use this one. Sorry, may I?
Okay,
If
go
we
on.
can't use two muscles at the same time. It was already there with that. I get so annoyed with this mouse because it was there, then it goes away. Where is it? I see.
Hooray, brilliant. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. I'm the last in this series, and it's been really interesting to hear everybody else's talk. So thank you very much. And I'm going to put my own timer on so I can keep an eye on my own time as well. Okay, so
Yes, that will be helpful.
yeah, so if you don't know me, I'm Fiona Christian. I work at Manchester Metropolitan University. I'm a former careers professional turned academic, and I'm also on the organising group for the Action as the Science Communication Coordinator. So I don't actually belong to any of the working groups, even though I think my presentation today, it spans sort of working group 1 because it's quite it is a theoretical presentation, but it's also connects to working group 3 really, because I am looking a little bit more granular about what the issues might be for individuals or agents, and what the implications might be for practitioners as well. So, so and if anybody's wondering, I'm defining, I use the term reflexivity and to use a definition from sociology from Margaret Archer. Reflexivity is the regular exercise of the mental ability to consider themselves in relation to their context and vice versa. And critical consciousness uses a slightly longer definition for critical consciousness from Hooley et al. To develop critical consciousness of their surroundings, not just seeing what is happening in their lives, but considering why these things are happening and in whose interest. Developing critical consciousness is about supporting people to intervene in their lives and exercise agency both individually and collectively. So that's how I'm depicting these terms. And I'm very much from an education background, and in this presentation I'm very much drawing upon more sociological perspectives, really. But where does this all come from? It didn't just come out of the blue that I should do this. Basically, you can see from the slide that I have done, the theoretical presentation I'm doing today is very much born out of my empirical research, and there's, I think, 5 papers that I've put up there, just the sort of screenshots from the front page of my articles. And a lot of my articles, I've been very much exploring what is the meaning-making processes that individuals undertake when they're trying to make sense of themselves in relation to their world. And reflexivity and critical consciousness have been implicit to this work I've done. So whether it's around peer learning for employability and the relational reflexivity that occurs there, whether it's the role of family for young graduates and trying to reject some of the deficit notions around class and how young people maybe depict their families as salient or being distinct from their family. Recent work I've done about young people and precarious work, very much I was using a psychological theory, PWT, but highlighting that actually that theory didn't really address reflexivity in terms of the diverse rationalizations people had. I've done this is where my short-sightedness means sometimes that I struggle to actually see what's on my slide. My other papers, yes. So what was my other one? Yes, competing voices. So this was from my PhD, but basically I used anthropological theory to actually try to explore how recent graduates made meaning of different discourses and ideas around success. And then also a co-authored paper with my excellent colleague Eileen Cunningham and others from Decent Work and Productivity, where we looked at how we could embed decent work in career development learning and in a spirit of critical consciousness. So I wanted to show that to you, that basically I'm talking theoretically today, however it's very much born out of some of the troubling issues I've been trying to deal with in my empirical research. So what I plan to cover today, I'm looking at effectively, it's a journey through the theoretical issues that I've grappled with in my own empirical research. I'll be briefly talking about structure, culture and agency in career studies and employability related scholarship. I'll be turning to sociology because I feel like some of the issues that are considered under-theorised in career studies have really been long studied in sociology. And then I'm also going to be thinking about how some of the more detailed processes of how people are reflexive and how we can observe that. And very much that's been influenced by anthropological and sociocultural theory that I first encountered in my PhD. And from this, I'm sort of developing with my co-authors, which I haven't thanked, and both Fiona Creeby and Cheryl Kobe-Gaskell are my co-authors on this. We've been looking at kind of seminal theory, kind of old but foundational seminal theory, and bringing it together to sort of create kind of theory assemblage that could be valuable in addressing these topics. And then also why. Here's our COCAG action document, and really if we look at what critical career theory is about, the 5th point on how we define critical career theory is about viewing human beings as having a bounded but transformative agency. So this is what I'm about and trying to delve into in a bit more of a granular way. Other colleagues have discussed this already today and really introduced us some really interesting theoretical perspectives. So, troubling questions about reflexivity and critical consciousness. I suppose recent career scholarship has advocated for critical consciousness, but to me it's been unclear as to what this actually looks like or what the processes are at play when people are critically conscious and how that relates to reflexivity. can reflexivity and critical consciousness lead to both accurate and inaccurate interpretations of context and self? And also how to distinguish between being a critical consumer or complainer, or even being embroiled in kind of notions of conspiracy theory, or being critically reflexive in ways that align to more balanced judgment over decisions, or even hopefully solidaric sort of collective action, really. So sometimes it's quite interesting. We talk about critical consciousness, and many people will say they're critically conscious, but sometimes it's taken them down different kind of pathways which may not be sort of productive for them or others, really. So anyway, but yes, so to sort of briefly sort of talk about agency and career studies scholarship and why I think this is a potential gap. And some of my authors here on the, or my fellow speakers here I'm citing here, have argued that basically agency is under-theorised in career studies scholarship. Meanwhile, we can see that structure, there's a long tradition, whether it's from Ken Roberts to Hodkin and Sparks to Patton and McMahon, have talked about structure and all the factors at play there. Culture, and I don't think we really talked about culture at the conference today. It's implicit in much of career studies scholarship. If we go back to seminal work, such as Paul Willis's Learning to Labour book, but other outputs which look very much at values and ideas and stuff do talk about culture, but I feel it's more implicit in some career studies scholarship. Similarly, agency and employability scholarship, and I'm an employability educator as well as a former careers practitioner. It's very normal in employability scholarship and teaching that reflective theory and practice will be foregrounded as a way to develop agency. It's routinely done. Barbara Bassett's done a great review of the different models, but we know that actually lots of these reflective models have been critiqued as individualistic and divorced from context, so there's a problem for employability educators there. Meanwhile, sociologists have been doing this for years. Really, whether it's reflexive modernity onwards, they've been arguing that the relationship between structure agency, the term reflexive modernity evolved. Authors such as Bourdieu really highlighted really in excellent ways the kind of role of habitus, field and capital, and the role of social production, reproduction processes in terms of how individuals interacted with their context and so on. But I would say, and this is where, respect to Margaret Archer, and she's one of the authors that I'm using, drawing upon, that Margaret Archer she's been much criticised, but she's done influential work on reflexivity and the reflexive imperative. So effectively, she departed from some of her sociological colleagues, saying, well, actually, we can look at agents. She uses the word agents rather than individuals. We can look at them and how they reflexively respond to their context, and that can be separate from the wider structural issues. And she very much kind of had this notion that reflexivity is the mediating device between structure and agency. So it's by being reflexive that people can actually consider structure, can have more agency in more meaningful ways. So trying to remember what's in my slide. So yeah, so really drawing very much on kind of Archer's, some of Archer's ideas here. And really, Archer came up with these concepts of types of reflexivity, and in her seminal work on this, 4 types of reflexive types: communicative reflexive, autonomous reflexives, meta-reflexive, and fractal reflexives. And that notion that people had internal conversations, and I won't go into these in great detail, but people had internal conversations which allowed them to sort of make sense of their contextual position. Heavily critiqued Archer's work. She dismisses Bourdieu's work really completely. She dismisses psychology. She thinks it's rubbish. Why bother with personality? Why bother with interests or strengths? Really, those are irrelevant. She also, she kind of also seems to argue there's a dominant type. There's been serious criticism of her work. However, respect to her, she's really established reflexivity as an important concept to be used, really. So I've turned to work from anthropology, from socioculture, that's actually, I feel, provides some valuable tools that actually could be used with Archer to more clearly think about how people are reflexive. What are the imaginative and cultural resources people use and can be enabled to use in order to be reflexive in meaningful ways? And in this work that Dorothy Holland and her co-authors worked on, and has been republished fairly extensively since, and have been used across the social sciences. She stresses the role of importance of dialogism. She stresses the kind of emancipatory potential of some of these kind of ideas, really. So really, I'm drawing on some of Holland's work. Really valuable concept from Holland is this notion of heteroglossia, which she draws from Bakhtin, which is more linguistic, comes from Soviet era linguistics and literature, this notion that people are multi-voiced. So basically, it's a very valuable concept. There are different voices, different resources, orchestrated in reflexive processes and self-authoring. And the cultural focus, I think, which is highlighted in this anthropological work, is very relevant to contemporary contexts where people are subject to extraordinary range of influences and elevated sense of uncertainty. And in a world where there's an ascendancy of cultural forces in the wider world, how might similar influences impact how people view their work and career? We think about the polarised context of politics, we think about the manosphere and all these sorts of really sort of powerful cultural diktats, but how does that play into kind of work and career? We also know that not all voices and cultural resources are important as one another, which are trustworthy, which are unconsciously influential. Bourdieu's ideas of misrecognition, the notion that people will take as normal, dominant ideas, inequalities, I think is very important and to kind of be explored in, when we're getting people or we're thinking about reflexivity for people we work with. So really valuable context. And so I'm looking at this to sort of blend some of these ideas. So Archer's work, which foregrounds the role of reflexivity, has really argued the, valuable work around that and a deep overarching framework. To sort of blend this with Figured Worlds, which explores what imaginative and cultural resources are used by agents in being reflexive and how they can be associated with agency and critical consciousness. So looking at how these are blended. And then, potentially I could propose a new type of reflexivity, which I'm calling multi-voiced reflexivity, and using kind of Archer's way of structuring this, that notion that at a very high level, and we're not granular here, but looking at the contextual uncertainty that people experience, sort of the deep sort of logics of digitalization, but also improvisation that people are experiencing in the world we're in, and actually the fact that people are multi-voiced, they're drawing upon a whole range of sources and ideas, and they're having to navigate these. And I think we're doing that in our action. We're multi-voiced in our action, and I think that's good and that's rich. And sometimes it's where these different voices conflicted with each other can be fertile and brings new ideas and so on. So that's sort of proposing a new type. And then what might this look like? Some examples from my work, just to sort of say that I suppose really, when I did my young people research, they had lots of different reflexive rationalizations in terms of precarious work. Many of them might use all of these reflexive rationalizations at different points in time. Similarly, there's another one from my work which is around competing perceptions of success for young people. They had that notion of different cultural resources, having to navigate between authenticity, competition, tactics, self-criticism, blaming context, contextual factors in a range of different ways. So I just wanted to highlight, just because you probably think, what might this look like? But actually, I feel I've done a theoretical job to think, when I did this empirical work, I had these findings, I used these different theories, I problematized them. How might I actually work on this to develop a sort of more theory assemblage, using some of this kind of foundational work in a way to really theorize reflexivity and critical consciousness a little bit more. So I think that's about it. So, okay. I had to really concentrate there because I don't usually work on a laptop because I'm quite myopic. So it was like,
yeah, you need to navigate
Yeah.
through. Making continuity and I also don't like to be. I feel like parallel world is happening in PowerPoint from what is happening in the hall. However, now we have around 10 minutes for discussion, or if you wanna steal from the coffee break sometime, we can maybe continue. We had a lot of issues, very interesting presentation from knowledge production, statistics and information from Albania, non-humans involved with us, and we are not treating them always good. That's not a nice thing. We think the humans are the most important. Then, like a lot of things, Sana will help me with the microphone, and floor is yours. Okay, good. We have help all around.
They've been listening
Please.
for a long time. haven't they?
No, you also?
They've been listening for a long time.
Yeah, sorry. Now we are listening to you.
I have one question for the Albanian data. A curiosity, the university that are offering all these courses are from the government, so, or private university sponsored by many European countries?
European country? No.
Foreign countries.
Okay. I mentioned in the methodology that I've used for this research, I've combined different methods, survey, let's say, 8,000 students for public and non-public university. For focus group for public and non-public university, and to have interview with the special of education involved in profession, PhD, etc. And the main problem that see is that not have difference between the public and non-public university about the tendency that I mentioned in my presentation about curricula, change the orientation in the master degree, or orientation of select some orientations to choose some program, let's say IT, engineering, etc., etc. It's the same problem.
But the private university are all
Not public,
sponsored and
yes.
financial
From what?
from Albania, not from other countries.
No, for another country. Yes, we have no any university that finance them for other country. Let's say I know have a master degree that finance for EU. It's only the program that we have. All the program are financed for the government. Let's say in the public university, and privately for the fund, the generation for the tariff of students, etc., etc. We have not in any model of university that finance for other donor or philanthrope. I don't know. I'm clear. I'm okay.
My question is related to an experience that I had in a ex-Yugoslavian country
Okay.
some years ago, and I realized that there were many private universities funded by some rich EU countries, and they train a lot of people in nursing, medical school, and so on, and then
I pick up.
So-
Yes, I understand.
people, and so the migration is
Yes, we
due
have.
to the fact that, and of course also the national university changed their program due to this situation, and from my perspective it's a form of new colonization.
Yeah,
and
of course, yes,
exploitation,
yes, you are
and
right.
so
We haven't not this kind of experience. Maybe in the future, why not? But for moment, no. This is the situation in my country about the
Okay, thank you.
orientation of preference, let's say.
Please be brief. There is many people to ask questions.
I've got a question for the first presentation. So think about your sort of post-humanist approach, sort of asking like what does the world want, and what do you do about extending ethics of care to non-human actors. Does that include technology?
Yes,
So
yes, basically speaking,
yeah,
yes.
yes, okay, okay. So how does that not create really pro-capitalist, dangerous ethics? If we start, for example, saying that large language models should have freedom of speech, and that it's acceptable for AI to use vast resources to run itself. How do we avoid those tensions?
Well, I guess that the thing is to acknowledge not only one actor, so if you acknowledge the agency of AI and any other language models, then we should also acknowledge another world's needs. So then there is an issue of reflexivity as well, at least in Barat. So if we understand all of this entanglement, there is no risk, at least in assumption, that there will be a domination, because it's really not about the domination of one of the thing. I mean, it's not domination of the matter, it's not domination of the epistemological or symbolism. It's like, you know, the acknowledgement of all of this entanglement. So the AI is only one of the actors, and if we see that if it's only one of the actors being around of us, then we should be able to recognize also the, I don't know, the needs of others and also other non-human beings. So I think that in that case, the risk of, you know, going deeper into neoliberalism and this individualistic view is not possible, because we see this variety of beings. So yeah, this is how it's understood.
Because the ethics of care.
Yeah.
Sorry. Because the ethics of care is basically mutual.
Exactly.
So there's reciprocity.
Yeah. Basically, of course.
That's the idea, at least.
It's quite a radical position, isn't it, to allocate that kind of care to a machine.
Well, I don't think that this is a care, but this is at least the agency. So I don't, I am not, and probably Barat would also be in that position that AI cares, but it has the agency, and this is something that we have to acknowledge at least. So.
It seemed as a slippage there. It seemed that you
Yes.
recognise agency without having like a sort of post-humanist ethic. So I think it's that tension that I'm not sure I'm convinced by. Well, we can talk about later, you know.
Yeah, we can talk, especially because I couldn't hear because Mariana was talking about the microphone. So.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you, very interesting, all the presentations. My question is from Sana and Anna. In terms of the post-humanism and its implications on guidance, I was wondering what you think about the fact that the guidance and careers are happening in the context of capitalist reproduction. My question from you is that why are you starting your intervention from guidance while knowing that we are living in the world that is like obviously entangled, as you mentioned, and we are living in a system that is not considering more than human objects? That's one question. And also, what do you think post-humanism bring to your perspective that actor network theory doesn't offer? Because in relation to the point that Tom basically is bringing, actor network theory has explained how technology and people and more than human objects are interacting all to shape a configuration. And I was wondering what post-humanism add to it.
So maybe for the first question, why we start with career guidance, I think that this is why we turned into career learning and education mostly, because then I agree with you, the guidance is more like an intervention or something like this, and it's later a bit. So this is why we are talking about education and learning mostly, at least in this area. So.
I guess my very simple question is that how can you tell a student to think about what world you want from them while they know that they need to earn money?
Well, there are several ways of doing this. Yeah, I guess that we can do this by giving them the chance to experience, giving them the chance to see the other perspectives, and this is something that it's of course difficult, and none of us is saying that we for ask students not to consider the labor market or not to consider, the money. But maybe this perspective is less radical. Maybe it's more about, acknowledgement and noticing, learning how to notice the other ways. So this is it. But the question is also really important in reality, as we've been talk about in the lunch break. We've been talk about the tendency that are visible in some countries, that there is a young generation of people who really want to be YouTubers and the other, vocations. They are choosing that kind of vocations, but society also needs nurses and also needs doctors. So there is that kind of discrepancy between young people expectations from life and also the societal and of course non-human needs. So it is an issue, and it is also the question how we as an educators, how we as a people, adults and parents, how we are going to address this. And this is probably why we use BSTAS pedagogy, just to learn how we can give students and young people possibility to notice the world, not only their own needs. So this is probably where we are. We are not in the position that we should, neglect the labor market.
Okay, I'm sorry for interrupting, but one question more, and that's it. I mean, leave it for later. We can discuss it. I think coffee is also very important. And we can continue. Yes, this is not end of the day, please.
I also think hopefully I might have some answers for you tomorrow, so watch this space, because my session picks up quite a lot on what you've talked about. So I have the question that I had is, for Anna and Sana again, sorry, and Fiona, I feel like the combination of the kind of world-centered relational ontology and the multi-voice reflexivity, put them together and we've solved everything. Do you see a space where actually those two could come together to kind of be the foundations of a lot of what we're talking about? Because actually, if we can figure out how to be at one with the many moving parts within our world, and how to actually then reflect and apply that feels to me like actually it's the start of something really important. Can you two write a paper?
Yes, of course. Agencies.
Yeah. Yeah, there is that conceptual, same sort of approach. At the same time, I think that Archer is presenting sort of like a traditional, it's an ontology that separates the individual having internal reflexive conversations which are interacting in a seemingly external world, where the relational ontology is proposing that all of this is interconnected, that our existing capitalist system is not external but inside of us, and it engages with our agency. And I don't think that there is a risk why we start in career guidance practice that it ends up again responsibilizing the students as agents, or that they are responsibilized to transform and end up not being able to pay their labor mortgage. But I think it's in those ways the approach that we are trying to work is to make these new lenses and these new sort of knowledges that everything is interconnected, that while people need to do their pragmatic choices and gain a job in the sector that has jobs, so they can do these with the knowledge that while I am doing this job, so I'm contributing into making of that world. So I think we're mostly providing some deeper sense of meaning, which is not only stopping to the labor market, but you could do different career choices while still playing with the existing capitalist system. You can choose an area with different industries, not only green jobs, but do seemingly brown jobs with a green intention. So there's a lot of big industries which are seemingly brown, but they're contributing to a broader shift of, for example, sustainable development. So that you notice your actions in these broader relations of global and local scales. And so, yes, still people need to do their pragmatic choices, but they can do them in more sort of conscientious way. So in those terms, we can
Yeah.
indeed develop some
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah, I feel that
reflexive model.
we may be coming to similar conclusions, but through a different theoretical route, really. And I depart from Archer. However, I, respect for her in terms of establishing reflexivity as something that's previously taken for granted and so on. And then also with the work from Dorothy Holland, very much dialogism at its heart is at its heart, that people are constantly answering but constantly addressing their context. So individuals are always, they're shaped, and I'm quoting from, I think probably on the back of the volume, but that there is hope. This is where it's quite a hopeful theory, the kind of anthropological theory, because it's kind of arguing that actually people are the products of social discipline, but also able to have remarkable improvisation as well. But quite often it's by using the products of social discipline that they're able to become sort of identical in a different sort of way, really. But yes, it's, but definitely. Well, Vicky.
About capitalism itself, because I think that from the post-humanism perspective and within those relational ontologies, capitalism itself is not something that is, given us for the entire life. It's actually entanglement itself. So capitalism is created. It's not something that is rigid and cannot be changed. And this is also an important, I guess, impact that we may have from this perspective, because capitalism is an entanglement on different areas of power, different areas of materialities, etc., etc. So if it is entanglement, then it is probably more possible to be flexible for capitalism and also to make some changes within this capitalistic world. So this is basically also why I think that this perspective has some potential of, doing practices that are close to making at least some small social change.
Okay. If anyone else is not in urgent need to say something briefly, I would like to conclude at least this official part by saying the following, especially regarding this Anna talk, that you don't need to persuade others about your radicalism. You can be radical without justification. I don't want to persuade you. I'm radical. I don't care. I mean, despite I don't share everything, I think it is inspiring to think and allow others to be radical in different ways. Please, thank you for your attention.
Happy to go.